Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good night. No matter wherever it is that you are in the great world upon which we live, we would like to thank you for tuning in to another edition of Think Tactical. Your situational awareness blog for preppers and people who want to be ready. Prepared to keep your family safe while pursuing the dreams of liberty and the pursuit of happiness. While we're just trying to do what it takes to keep our family safe and live the greatest life that we can live. And I've got my two buddies along, my co-hosts, guys I've known for 15 years and have worked closely with, colleagues. We've worked together on the job, and now here we are. The first one, go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
Coach Malaren.
What's up, Coach? How are you today?
Bob, the Eclipse Coleman.
What's up, Eclipse? Good to hear from you today.
Thank you, sir.
Doing good. We have an exciting topic today. So I say exciting. It's exciting to me, but most of you guys probably don't do your due diligence in this area, so we thought we would do it for you. We thought we would take the situational awareness to you when it comes to fire extinguishers. We're going to talk about fire extinguishers tonight, and there's just a lot of stuff you should know about it, and I know you guys aren't up on your fire extinguisher stuff, and that's living in the white, and we want to live in the yellow. So, Coach, tell us a little bit about fire extinguishers and why fire extinguishers are important to us.
Well, everybody in their everyday travels, it can come upon a fire, and most people think there's only three types of fire extinguishers: the standard A, B, and C type fire extinguishers. A being for a wood or paper fire, which you would use a water on it. The B would be for a simple grease fire, and you say in your home where you wouldn't use water because the water would spread the burning grease, and so you use a type B, either a foam or a dry powder on it. And then there's the type C, which is for electrical fires. Again, you wouldn't want to use the foam because the foam would tend to keep the fire going. It would keep the electrical part going. So you'd use a C type, which is usually a carbon dioxide type fire extinguishers. And a lot of people are familiar with that, and they've heard that in their preschool. They've seen it on Sesame Street and all the other things, but they don't know about some of the other ones. There's actually 5 classes of fire. I'm sorry, 6 classes of fire. I need to redo that.
6 classes? I thought there was like Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta.
There are more.
Yeah, they came up with some new ones. I was like you, John. I thought it was only 3. I got educated myself. All my extinguishers in the house here are ABC rated, which means they're good for all 3 of those. But then I'm finding out there's more.
That's crazy because in my Navy days there was Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta, and so now we have more. Wow.
Now we have more, and the typical homeowner and car owner is only going to face the first 3, and having an ABC extinguisher is going to handle you throughout your life. But
something to mention is having one in your car or truck. I've always had one. I've always had one in my truck, but I didn't have them in my car. And one night we were coming back, and lo and behold, there's a woman with a very nice Mercedes, and the hood is up, and the engine compartment is on fire. And I'm like, well, crud! I'm not in my truck, and I don't have one in this car, and so I immediately remedied that situation. So.
And that is too, because a car fire, if you get to it quickly, you can stop it quickly. But once it gets going, it's tough to spread. It'll spread, and it'll just eat up everything in the car and other people.
Oh, it has everything. It's got fuel, flammable solids, it's electrical. It's all 3 of them at once, just mixing together if it gets going good.
That's right. So it is a good idea to be prepared. Like I said, the Scout model, being an Eagle Scout, be prepared. Have one in your vehicle, every vehicle. Have them at home. At home, the best place to have them, of course, is in the kitchen, because that's where typically most of your fires happen. It wouldn't hurt to also have one nearby your electrical panel box. That's another place that a fire can start. And having one right nearby, if you come upon it, and realize that there's fire, you can put it out quickly and save a lot of damage and save your house.
Yeah, these small bottles are not terribly expensive. The ones you can get in like your big box stores, we get the smaller ones. They might be $20 a piece, but that's cheap compared to what you end up saving. And so, yeah, like you, I actually do. I have one. I was thinking about it. Do I have one near the? Yeah, I do have one near the electrical box. I have one in my utility room in the basement. I have one near the kitchen.
Okay,
and one in the garage.
So you really have 4 or 5 fire extinguishers at your house? Give me a break. Really? I mean, who does that?
I don't have a mansion. This is 2,200 square feet, so.
Yeah, it doesn't take much, and like Bob said, those fire extinguishers are not expensive, especially if you go to a big box store or Walmart or a Sam's Warehouse or Costco. They usually have them, and they usually have them in like 3-packs, and it's good. You can buy a couple and get in have them in your car, in your house, everywhere. And it's good. The faster. The one that's good is the one that's handy.
The one that's good.
How about these other classifications you were talking about, Myron?
Well, let's talk about. Okay, yeah. Let's. You mentioned the other 4, right?
Yes.
Alpha, Bravo, Delta, and Charlie. So, what are the other ones?
There are Class D fires.
Delta.
There is.
You said Delta, right? D as in Delta?
Yeah,
D as in Delta.
D as in Delta. And there's other electrical fires, and then there's the Class F as in foxtrot fires.
And what is a Class F fire?
Okay, we will come back to the Class Ds. Let's go right to the Class F. But Class F fires are cooking oils. And you might think that, okay, that's we already have that covered under the B and C, fire extinguishers. But the Class F fires take it up a notch. And this is where some people could come in contact to a Class F fire would be a major oil or grease fire, like you might have in a restaurant. Restaurants have a habit of getting everything. There's grease all over. Floors are slippery from the grease. There's grease all over. Once the fire gets going in a big grease fire, it's not as easy to put out as you would think.
No,
Class K.
Because what does water do to a grease fire?
The water gets grease, as we know, floats on top of water. So if you put water on it, the water goes underneath the grease, and then the water starts to spread. And what it's doing now is it's spreading the fire.
And so that's the number one reason you don't throw water on a grease fire in a stove, even if you don't have a fire extinguisher. What do you throw on a stove fire that has grease?
The common approach for your average stovetop fire, if you don't have a fire extinguisher handy, hopefully every woman has a big box of baking soda, bicarbonate of sodium bicarbonate. If you throw that on there, it will smother a grease fire, a small one, like the type you have in a small frying pan.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. What do you do when you don't have a fire extinguisher and you have a grease fire? But another one is flour. If you don't have baking soda, the all-purpose flour on top of that grease.
Well, the thing with flour, and you have to be careful, because with flour you can get a dust explosion. Where where the baking soda, the sodium bicarbonate is not flammable. In a fine thing, flour is flammable.
Sure, yes, it is.
Yeah, you've heard of silos exploding out in the farmland. So that's what.
But if you don't have baking soda, you put flour on that before you put water on it.
Right, but you got to be careful with the flour.
Right. Again,
because flour in a finer thing, as you start to throw it, it's going to get fine and it will burn. Yeah. And you can get into. That's why, like Bob said about grain silos. Grain silos blow up from dust, from the grain dust.
Yeah, from it igniting when it gets in there. Yep.
Yeah, it gets up in air suspension. And it has enough oxygen, and it's a small granule that is that is flammable, and you'll get a fire. You'll spread a fire fast there. That's very careful with putting flour on a grease fire, on any fire.
But it's definitely going to do better than water that's going to spread it. That's the point. That's the point I want to get across.
Water's bad.
Water's bad. What you don't want to do is grab that thing like I did one time and stick it. I had a burning pot, grab that sucker, threw it under the water spigot in the faucet, and turned it on. and I had a minor explosion.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
the grease. The grease is at the is above the boiling point of water when it's burning, and that's what happens. That water turns to steam
instantly.
Yeah.
And being a Navy man, John, you knows what happens with steam.
I wasn't a Navy man at that time.
Yeah, not that time. Yeah. So, all right, cool. What about these Class Ds? John knew about those, but they were kind of new to me.
I was going to finish on the Class K, the Class F fires.
All right.
The Class F fires, they use a special Class K fire extinguisher, which is kind of neat. And like I said, people working around kitchens might want to know this. It spreads by using an alkali compound, typically like lye. It's similar to lye, so it would be caustic to the skin. That's why they shoot people around these big grease fires with the K-type fire extinguisher need to be careful they don't get it on their skin. But the way those work is by saponification, where
How do
the
you
chemical.
spell that?
I'm an engineer, Bob. Not a. we invented spell check for a reason.
There you go. There you go.
But saponification starts to turn. What it does is it causes the grease and oils to turn into soap, which is not flammable. And that's why it works on the big grease fires. It's typically a dry chemical, but it's just an information thing. Most people aren't around that type of stuff, but a lot of people do work in hotels, restaurants where they have big kitchens and could come across something like this, or even people that work on deliver oil, heating oil, and things like that. They need to have that knowledge, and it wouldn't hurt for them to get some training in it. And if you haven't been trained, talk to your employer or supervisor about getting some training on those type of special fires. Okay, now if you want, we can go back to the Class D, which is another oddball that people aren't going to come across very often, but just for their knowledge, we'll tell them about the Class D fires are metal fires. There are flammable metals out there.
Like magnesium.
Metals such as magnesium,
Yes.
sodium, potassium. And once they get on fire, the worst thing you could do is throw something water on them.
To put water on them. We have those. We had those kind of fires in the Navy, and they are absolutely terrible.
Yes, because anything you don't want to put anything on there that reacts with those metals, which those metals are extremely reactive, so they react with a lot of stuff. So that's why you need a specific Class D fire extinguisher. That water will just make life completely worse. That will magnify everything that's going on, because water and sodium
makes the fire burn hotter. Actually,
yes. What it does, and how it works is the water reacts with sodium or potassium by forming a salt, which is nice, like sodium, But the other problem it forms is it gives off hydrogen. The byproduct is hydrogen gas.
And nothing ever bad happened with igniting hydrogen in history, right?
Right, yeah. Ask a bunch of people at that field in 1936.
New Jersey, yeah. A thing called the Hindenburg.
Oh, yes. That was a nice big one.
Yes, that's what happens with hydrogen gas. Lots of heat, flame, and, again, bad things. So be aware if most people aren't working around those type of metals or don't handle those type of stuff, so you don't have to worry about it. But if for some reason your job has you working around that stuff, get your training. Make sure you're aware of what can happen and the bad things that can happen.
Yeah, and even on your ABC fire extinguishers, be familiar with the ones you do buy. Read the directions on the thing when you get it. Don't wait till the fire happens to try and figure out what's going on with them. They're usually very simple, but you need to familiarize yourself with the particular model you have. They're usually pretty simple. It's usually just pull a pin, aim at the base of fire, and pull trigger. It's pretty much that simple. But if you don't look at it ahead of time, you may be fumbling with it, and those moments cost you precious time. And as Myron has pointed out, with fire, getting on it fast and early is critical.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute.
Another thing too, don't wait for a fire inspector to check your fire extinguishers.
Well, we'll get back to that for a second. Let's talk about for a second, how do you actually put out a fire? Where do you aim your fire extinguisher, and how do you go about doing that?
Do you want to cover that, Bob? Go for it.
I can try it. Most of your average ABC fire extinguishers have a limited range between 5 and 10 feet, so they're designed to be fairly close in. They're designed for smaller fires. That's what we're talking about, is these small bottles. The idea with almost all of these universally is you aim at the base of the flame, not at the top of the flame. It's not going to do you a whole lot of good there. The design of all of these things is to smother the fire, and the best way to get that is to get the chemical at the base of the fire where the source, the ignition material is at, and that's where you want to deprive that material of oxygen. No oxygen means no fire. You don't have fire in space despite the stuff you see in the movie.
That's right. There's three things that a fire needs. It needs fuel, it needs oxygen, and it needs heat. If you deprive it of any one of those three, the fire goes out. Very simple.
So, now back to what folks can do is you can practice. You can actually practice and train your family without actually extinguishing, or rather depleting your fire extinguisher. You can actually go through training where you're taking everyone and showing them how they would use it in case of a fire. Because if you can imagine that it takes a few seconds to get an extinguisher out and shut a fire down, and you've only got a few seconds. And after that, you lose a whole house. So that's the importance of a fire extinguisher. But as Myron was going to say right before I cut him off was, having a fire extinguisher is great as long as the fire extinguisher is maintained. Fire extinguishers, like everything else, have to be maintained. And the maintenance on a fire extinguisher is to ensure that it's charged. Fire extinguishers have a charging range, a charging set of months or year or a few months, whatever the case it is for each fire extinguisher. And so what Myron was saying was, you don't want to wait till a fire marshal, or those of us who don't have fire marshals at our houses, you don't want to wait until you need the extinguisher to realize my extinguisher is no longer charged because it has charged down because it's so old. So there are ranges on these extinguishers when you buy them that tell you when the extinguisher is no longer good, or has to be recharged, or has to be thrown away. And one of the things that you can do is get your Google app. As soon as you buy that, get your Google Calendar, put the date in your Google Calendar, and then have a reminder for a month or two before that date. And so that pops up and lets you know, hey, my fire extinguisher or extinguishers need to be replaced or maintained or recharged, or whatever the case may be. This could
or for those that don't rely on Google and a laptop and other things to do this stuff, just put a piece of paper with the expiration date on it, put some tape over it, and you can look at it every day.
Yeah, post it near the fire extinguisher.
Yeah, there are a lot of people out there that don't. You said use your Google app. They haven't even heard of it. They don't know what to do or how to use it. There's still a lot of people out there like that, John.
So in that case, as Myron points out, get a big old piece of paper, tape it on there with the big date on it, big large letters, numbers, so you can read it from across the room. So when you walk past it every day, you see those big large numbers. You can also put a sticky on your refrigerator, whatever it's going to take to remind you that this thing has a lifespan, and when that lifespan is over, it's like not having a fire extinguisher at all.
I ran into that situation in a place I worked where we had a fire in a trash can, and we went to grab the fire extinguishers, and we just moved into this building and had the fire marshal come in and inspect our fire extinguishers, and the two fire extinguishers we grabbed were both out and did nothing.
Oh. Ouch.
Yeah. So I mean that was kind of fun.
Yeah,
you're not looking for that. So
no.
To kind of recap, you you want fire extinguishers all over the place. And these things, for the most part, are not very expensive. I've seen them for $10, $15 at the hardware store. They have them at Walmart. They have them at Ace Hardware, Lowe's, Home Depot, all those places that you can imagine. You can get these things from, even Target. And as Bob said, he's got one downstairs in the basement. He's got some upstairs. He's got some several places, and then he had one in his truck because he does all this stuff in his truck, but he didn't have one in the car. Having one that you can, one thing that I've seen this happen 100,000 times. Like somebody has a small problem, they open up the hood, and everything's aflame. You run to the back, grab the fire extinguisher, and the trouble is done in 5 minutes. No fire extinguisher takes the fire department 15 minutes to get there, and that's pretty fast. And the whole car is lost up in flames and everything in it. So that
Captain Herb here in Atlanta, God rest his soul, used to call that auto flambe. Once they get them going good, you just let them burn because they're going to burn that fire into a shell. And we've all seen those on the side of the road. It's sad because that's a lot of money just went up.
That could have been shut down real quick with a
real fast
$20 fire extinguisher.
As we say, when seconds count, the police and fire department are only minutes away.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
That's how seconds count.
When seconds count.
Unfortunately, nothing against the police or the fire department, but they can't be everywhere.
Well, it's
can't be everywhere, and the fire extinguishers, like John said, they're not expensive. It's cheap insurance.
Absolutely.
For the cost of what you would destroy, and not even bringing in, people's lives or their safety and health. Just the cost of things that would destroy the fire extinguishers are cheap insurance.
Okay, so we just wanted to talk to you guys for a few minutes about some everyday things, utilitous things that can keep you alive and keep you safe, and stop make a bad occurrence, stop it from becoming a tragedy, just by having something so simple and so inexpensive over in the corner that you can run to and grab real quick and put out the flames, and you're good. Whether that's in your car, in your basement, in your truck, in your family room, out by the pool room, wherever the case may be, where you need to be able to get them. You need a few of them in different places in the home, upstairs, downstairs, whatever. And everybody needs to be trained in the house on how to use them. And so we just want to get that point across to you in our Think Tactical Situational Awareness world, where we want you to be prepared and ready for all things. You guys have anything else to say?
No, I think we've covered it. It's not an exhaustive topic, but it's an important one.
Exactly.
Yeah, we just want everybody. I mean, we assume that people know everything we do, and that's not a good assumption. So if you did know this already, good for you. If you didn't, I hope you'll take this information and use it well, and look into it some more on your own. There's plenty of information out there on the World Wide Web, and you can look up types of fire extinguishers and get even more educated. But without knowing that these different things existed, you might not think to go look for it.
And what we're going to do is we're going to put some links on our Think Tactical, thinktacticalnews.com. We're going to put some links down there, and we're going to we'll have a story of this and some links there, and also some places that you can go and get it at our Amazon Superstore. We have an Amazon Superstore for the channel, so you can actually follow the links to the Amazon Superstore and check out the various fire extinguishers that might be good for you. And if you buy them from our link, the show gets a little something from that, and that helps to keep the show going. So that would be a good thing. ThinkTacticalNews.com, where we have all kinds of information and news and relevant events that will help you to keep your mind together and situationally aware. And we also definitely appreciate it if you go check out our Think Tactical YouTube channel, and it's Think Tactical on YouTube. And that channel will also give you all kinds of videos and things that we're doing, as well as this podcast, to help keep you moving and aware and situationally together, always in the yellow and never in the white. Listen, Have a great evening, a great morning.
John, can I add one more thing?
Sure, I'm sorry.
If you go on there and hit the subscribe button, you can have it notify you when we have new podcasts up and when we have new videos up.
You have to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and the notification bell lets you know exactly when we're doing something.
If you don't want to be notified, if you just want to subscribe anyway. Help us out here. We like having subscribers. We like knowing that we're reaching a bunch of people, and our subscriber list is growing as we speak, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, we have like 75 subscribers right now. We're so excited. All right.
Yes.
I think that's it then.
More is better.
More is better. I think that's it for you guys. So we definitely appreciate you tuning in, and have a great rest of your day, rest of your week. Until we're back at it again, be aware, be ready, be happy, pursuing the best life you can, but be prepared to handle the worst things that come, because you are situationally aware and you always think tactical.